So this has to be the worst knife I've seen my entire life, and I've seen a ton of them. Guys, welcome to the channel, and just as it's important to analyze smart, successful, clever designs, I think there's something to be said about horrible ones. But before we go on, remember that if you want to learn more about survival, preparedness in the practical way I try to do it here on the channel, you have 3 survival skills with a ton of information about EDC, knives, tools, self-defense, and a ton more information, defensive driving, and so much more, as well as surviving the economic collapse based on my experience of going through just that in Argentina. Still struggling till this day, but hey, that's for another video. So what is it about the Parkside? Well, first of all, it's kind of catchy. The design, someone there combined colors nicely, and that's all there is to it. The handle is not the most horrible thing I've seen, but then we get to everything else, and that's where things start falling apart very quickly. Now, I've noticed that this has been ground very bad. I've seen some of these be a lot thicker, so this is terrible, the way they just butchered this thing down to nothing. I mean, it's quite obvious that someone that didn't know what they were doing started the first day in the job in China, it just killed this thing. I mean, it's tiny, but even compared to what your typical Mora knife, look at how much blade you lost here. This is a knife that is just killed because of incompetence when it comes to grinding it down. And you see that there, again, I've seen the pictures, and besides that, look at how much of your sheath you still have left. All right. Oh, right, it goes the other way around because there you go. So you have a blade that, I mean, how do you screw up something this basic? They're obviously trying to copy your Scandi Mora type blade, which should be simple enough, but as you see, you can mess those up even designs that are super simple and successful. So you have a combination of some rubbery materials here in the handle. I guess this is like jimping there. You're supposed to do what, this? Tiny for even small hands. I mean, why make this so small? You have room to make it, but anyway, it has to be extremely tiny and wasteful of the combination of materials, which used appropriately would have made a decent handle. So handle sucks in spite of the 2 materials being used, and surprisingly heavy. So there's a lot of heavy plastic in this thing, and the blade is, well, what I just explained, just grind. It is those sharp, so you have that. Now, maybe one of the worst sins that this thing has is this piece of plastic. Why, dear God, why are you doing this to us? Why do you have a piece of plastic that I cannot even remove? Because if I remove it, I lose the retention, which depends on that plastic, that red plastic, making contact with this dimple on either side. So this has to go like so. But it has to fit perfectly well, because if not, you will be constantly stabbing on the side of this thing and never getting it in there. You have to be extreme. You don't even have you don't even have like a curvature or a ramp on either side, so like a magazine in a good pistol. No, it's just, it has to be perfect alignment of the blade with that slit where it just goes in there. One direction only, because why on earth would you make this practical? I don't know. This thing, I can only assume, is intended so as to get caught on stuff and lost. That's the only reason I can find for that. But then, copying things but doing it bad. For example, belt loop. For a dwarf, I assume that's the only thing that kind of makes sense. Look how Mora does it. This is the cheapest Mora knife that Mora makes. This is the cheapest one, all right? It's a single piece of plastic handle, large enough to fit most hands very nicely. It's not even using rubber or any kind of soft material here. No, super basic. Blade, you don't miss a thing. The blade is perfectly grinded on either side. Those bevels are just as they should be. Do I have some stupid piece of plastic? No, why would you? I just have a hole to drain which, by the way, it's missing here. You don't have anything that's going to be catching any crap that goes in there, and good luck getting it out of there. No, I don't need that. I just drop it and it falls into place. Yes, it is in one way only, right? But hey, you don't have to worry about it. Now, in terms of the belt loop, look at this thing. What is it that you intend to do with this? I mean, maybe 30 years ago, belts were a little bit thinner, even though, yeah, maybe. But why is it that you have this thing, and this is beautiful. It has this hole that goes through. Why? What's the purpose of that? Well, if you ask Mora, that's intended to be caught on the button of the pants of many of these carpentry working pants, right? They have like a button and it just latches to that thing. Stanley, that copied this a little bit on their own, well, they sort of did the same thing. Big enough for a button to go in there, you slide it down and it gets caught. Or belt buckle, right? This one, kind of the same thing, also by Mora, right? So this one has like an attachment little tab there, but this one just slides in there and wide enough to fit most belts. Why on earth do you do this thing so bad? And what blows my mind is they actually thought about it. They thought, hey, we're going to include a sharpener. Oh, obviously the worst kind of sharpener ever, the kind of thing that you see used in kitchens all over by people that don't know how to sharpen a knife properly. But I guess you could get a somewhat of a wire edge going there if you drag it against this this nightmare of a sharpener. I guess you would have something better than nothing. But dear God, how do you design a knife so poorly? It's great. I don't know, how much was it? $3, $5? But even $3. $3 is what this one costs. 5, 6, 8, whatever the Mora cost. The Stanley, this was super affordable. This was like $5. Stainless steel, rubber, comfortable, well-designed blade, solid. Yeah, they're just copying the Mora in their own little take of things. But this is unexcusable. There's no excuse for doing something this bad, for doing this crappy job on a blade. And again, the idea that they thought about putting a plastic insert in there so as to have another color, but hey, let's just make things horrible and painful to use. That's what they managed to do with this knife. Oh, dear God. Okay, yeah, that's how you don't make a knife. And you don't have to, but it's super cheap. Well, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can have this for $3, $4. You can buy a Mora for what, $8, $10, give or take. Sometimes it's on sale. It's going to be even cheaper. So I would be more comfortable with the Mora. Based on what I've seen from the Stanleys, these are good. Hultafors, also super affordable. You can go with a little bit more expensive. Again, these are made in Sweden, so you're talking about high quality stuff. Stanley probably made in China, made in Austria, $22 back in the day when I bought it. And you can go with something fancier or more expensive, right? But it's all on making smart decisions. You don't have to spend $1,000 on a super, crazy ass steel that it's probably not going to be as tough as the cheaper steel and more affordable knives, right? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Do whatever you want, but that's not exactly what I would think. But you do have a ton of affordable options that make a lot more sense than buying the most horribly, poorly designed piece of crap that supermarkets have to offer, okay? See you next time, guys. Take care.